What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Steve.
I'm Lindsay.
Today we're going to be reacting to the Irish Education System Explained. This is going to be the first time that either Lindsay or I have learned anything about the Irish schooling system.
We did do a couple videos, I think at least one, maybe two, on the English school system.
Yes, and we believe that each country within the UK specifically probably have
differing education.
Right. I think there's probably in the UK, I'm guessing there's some sort of overseeing body or something.
But then there's like nuances to that in each country.
Right. And obviously Northern Ireland is part of the UK, so they probably may have more in common with the British school system than what we're going to see here, I'm guessing, because I think this is going to be basically mostly the Republic of Ireland is what I'm guessing. So anyways, guys, have no idea what to expect here, so we're going to dive in and check out the Irish Education System Explained.
Welcome to a very special challenge video. I am your host, PKMX, and you're probably wondering what's going on here.
I am.
Well, after 19 years of being a dry balls and refusing to drink alcohol, I have decided that now is a good time to start. I was recently introduced to this brand new drinking game called Down Your Drink Every Time the SEC f***s up, and I just couldn't resist. So I am going to become a real man by completing this challenge.
With the SEC?
You know, what could possibly go wrong? Well,
I'm assuming SEC is something to do, like the Education Council or something. Student Education Council?
Yeah, maybe that sounds cool.
As I recover from alcohol poisoning, I should try to fill the next 13 minutes with some kind of Cert content. You might have watched that boring video essay about the SEC that I made in August last year, and I'm really sorry if you did. I recently deleted that video from my channel because it was just unwatchable, so I should probably replace it with something better. I have complained about the Leaving Cert enough on this channel, so I think it's time I take a more
the Leaving Cert.
I'm assuming like
leaving certification of some
what
sort.
you have to take when you leave high school, like to enter college, maybe. Or
is that like the
SAT?
SAT?
Maybe?
No. A Leaving Cert sounds like something you would take near the end of your schooling. The SAT is not exactly that.
Well, I mean, it is if it's to determine what type of college you're going to get into. University.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
objective approach. In this video, I will provide an overview of how the Irish education system works, and we're going to rewind back to its origins.
I love the music.
The Irish government's first efforts to truly revolutionise our education system can be traced back to the 1960s. Ah, the good old days, when being left-handed meant that you were the Antichrist. This was...
That's our daughter.
Not the Antichrist.
No, I'm saying left-handed.
Yeah.
She's one of the only left-handed people I've ever known. Well, my Uncle David, scratch that. But this right here reminds me of every schoolhouse I've seen in American pictures from like the 50s or before.
It looks like it was pretty well, maybe not universal, but Western universal.
Right, yes.
There was a time when child abuse, corporal punishment, was completely acceptable in primary schools. And the teachers were members of the Catholic Church, so of course they didn't suffer any consequences.
All right, sorry for pausing, guys, but I just have to ask, let us know in the comments, were you in school when they still allowed paddling?
I was in school.
I know. But I'm just saying, a lot of people probably watching this weren't in school at that point.
But I feel like it ended when I was in elementary school.
Yeah,
it was very brief.
I don't know when that ended, but I remember it going on for quite a while. They had a paddle in the principal's office.
Yeah, I remember.
And I don't know if they did the same in Ireland, if they had a paddle on the wall or something, but yep, they did that to deter the kids from acting out. And I know before my time, it probably
was way worse.
Way worse.
Like, because it's probably, like, when I was in school, even though it was still existed, it was very rare.
Yeah, it wasn't used very often.
It was reserved for, like, the extreme case kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is this lunch?
Oh, it looks like it. Look how cute they are.
Ireland was almost completely cancelled in the 50s, but the 60s was a decade of significant social and cultural advancements. More people were questioning and criticising the values of the Catholic Church, women were allowed to have human rights, and young Irish people started to receive more educational opportunities than previous generations. Ireland has an interesting track record with change and modernisation, but despite this, the Catholic Church maintains their influence over Irish schools. It made perfect sense to trust the Catholic Church with this responsibility though, because we all know that they have a great reputation for taking care of children. Right?
Tuam Mother and Baby Home.
I'm assuming it's a place.
Oh, okay, guys. I'm gonna have to look into the mother and baby homes. I've had people.
I feel like I've heard about that.
Right. I've had people say that we need to. Well, before you were on the channel, telling me that I need to check that out. Supposedly they were pretty horrifying. I have no idea. I've never looked into that type of stuff.
I've never went to Catholic school, but at least here in America, there's a reputation for Catholic schools being really strict and intense.
If education is supposed to entail traumatizing children for life with physical and emotional abuse, then the Catholic Church gets a H1. Irish schools were still controlled by nuns and Christian brothers in the 60s, but the entire framework of education experienced some positive changes. The 50s was a rough time for education in Ireland, as 1/3 of Irish students were leaving their education after completing primary school. It was clear that education needed to be more accessible, so entry fees for second level school.
I don't think that was just an Irish thing, though. Here in the U.S., at least until I don't know when that really stopped. Maybe the 30s or 40s or something. But
But he was saying in the 50s, right?
I think they overhauled it in the 60s.
No, but he was saying up until the 50s, people,
I
like
think
a
so.
third of students were.
Yeah.
Schools were abolished in 1967. Ever since this huge announcement, education in Ireland has been 100% free. Whoa, wait a minute. You're saying that people in Ireland go to school for free? Well, enrolling in school is completely free, but you will have to pay extortionate amounts of money for uniforms, textbooks and copies, voluntary school funds.
So you guys do uniforms as well.
Well, I mean, Catholic school, that makes sense.
I know that in England, they do uniforms usually. Here, that's not really much of a thing unless you go to Catholic school.
Funds that aren't voluntary at all, and you have to pay €116 to sit the Leaving Cert. Oh. But if you have a medical card, the Leaving Cert is free. Oh, well that's fair. It makes it more affordable for people with But if you're repeating 6th year, you'll have to fork over €301.
Wait, if you're...
Despite these huge expenses...
They say if you're repeating the 6th grade, you got to pay?
6th year.
6th year, which is... Is that 5th grade or 7th grade?
I don't know.
Or 6th grade?
Ireland is internationally recognised for its excellent literacy rates, student progression to 3rd level, and its high-quality education system in general. Under the current educational model, Irish students receive compulsory education for up to 14 years. This includes 8 years of primary school and 5 or 6 years of secondary school.
Wait, 14 years? 8 years of primary school. 8 years of primary school, 5 years of secondary school, because here, even if you count kindergarten through 12th, that is 13 years.
But if you go to pre-K, that would be 14.
Yeah, but like that, I mean, I get that, but here we wouldn't consider pre-K a part of that grouping. It would be...
Not here, but I think in the UK and maybe Ireland, they do.
Yeah, I guess that's true. So that is definitely a difference here because pre-K is something that's not really universally a thing here. It's more...
but it's becoming that.
It is definitely becoming that. It's what I experienced in kindergarten and, well, what I experienced in kindergarten is what they do in preschool now. And what I experienced in 1st grade is what they expect in kindergarten now, which I personally feel that is too sped up. I liked the idea of kindergarten being more about socialization than actually academic school work because you have plenty of time
because it doesn't
to grow into
sense with developmental stages to make it more
not really
complicated than that.
Yeah.
Children start their 1st year of primary school, junior infants, at the age of 4 or 5. Yes, 4 or 5. Not a reasonable age of 6 or 7, because we need to cram as much information into their brains as humanly possible.
So basically, this is preschool. Sorry for pausing so much, by the way, guys. We're just trying to grasp this. But basically, that is preschool, is the
official start
of official school. Like, so basically, you're saying that everybody, all kids, start going to school at this
4 or 5.
4 or 5 instead of it being kind of half the kids. Because here it would be like, I'd say probably 60% of the kids may go to school in preschool.
I want to look at that.
Something like that. Maybe half.
They have to work their way up the ranks until they reach their final year of secondary school at the age of 17 or 18, when they prepare to sit the Leaving Cert. At this point in their educational careers, they must make significant decisions about their future, and they're expected to act like adults while being treated like kids.
Let's say you want to go to the bathroom.
In junior infants, you have to put up your hand and ask, "On will cadugum dulgudi on leheris," whereas in Leaving Cert, you have to put up your hand and ask, "On will cadugum dulgudi on leheris." So you go.
Wait, what?
I'm assuming that was Irish for can I go to the bathroom?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Go to school for 14 years, and it's all tested in 2 weeks of exams because that's completely fair. These exams are known as the Leaving Cert, but intellectuals like myself prefer to say Leaving Certificate Examinations. Students usually study 7 exam subjects for the Leaving Cert, but only 6 of those subjects are counted towards their final results. It would probably make more sense to study 4 or 5 exam subjects so the workload wouldn't become overwhelming, but again, cram as much information into their brains as humanly possible. You see, there's a running theme here. We have this unique grading system which was introduced just a few years ago, but nobody over the age of 21 seems to understand it.
Okay. Current grading system. New grading system. Oh. H. Why did they get rid of the old grading system?
A, B, C, D, E, F.
I mean, it's like, that the old grading system was much easier to really see what's going on here. Mm-hmm. I mean, you've got basically A plus and A. I'd say A plus, B plus, B minus, C plus, C minus. That's what the 1, 2, and 3 would,
Right.
be to me. And then obviously, honestly, here, your grade of percentage would be considered failed here when you get to the C, I think. Because it's around 60 or 70 is a failing grade. Yeah, at least when I was in school, I think it was actually under 70 was a failing grade. But
you know more about that than I do. I'm just kidding. Well, not really.
I was really good at school.
Yeah, you were smart. You just didn't like to go.
Yeah, I hated school, to be honest. No, I was not the, oh my goodness, let me go to school. No, I was the kid that was always decided to not go to school.
Leaving Cert and Junior Cert subjects can be taken at high level or ordinary level, but some cavemen prefer to say honours and pass. Oh, and foundation level maths also exists if you're content with receiving a maximum of 20 points in that subject and being ineligible for almost every college course in the country. The difference in points achievable between higher level and ordinary level subjects is pretty drastic.
Hold on. Okay. Higher level grade, points, ordinary level grade.
I have no idea what any of
I
this
have no idea what any of this means, seriously. Like, this seems like a very confusing grade level. Oh, well, the H and the O. Okay. Higher level grade, ordinary level grade.
But I still don't get what it means. Like, why?
Yeah, why does the point system start so low for the ordinary level grade system? All right.
And this is reflected in the difficulty of both levels. Ordinary level English. Write an essay about a few poems which are provided on the exam paper. Higher level English. Learn 36 poems off by heart. Ordinary level Irish. Write a half a page about a tempesta. Higher level Irish. Write 4 pages about how climate change and pollution are affecting the planet. Also learn the life stories of every poet on the course, and make sure you know their birthdays and their blood type. Higher level exams are far more difficult, of course, but the content is the same for both levels. If you ask me, the problem with the Leaving Cert isn't the content in the curriculum. We study a lot of intriguing material. In English, we study Shakespearean plays and The Great Gatsby and 100 poems. In history, we learn about the Troubles and the moon landing, and in Irish we study... I just can't explain that. The Irish language is on a huge decline, we all know that. But why do so many Irish people dislike our national language? A simple answer. Because in schools, the Irish language is taught like shit. You may argue that the language is alive and well because it's spoken regularly by almost 75,000 people. But here's a secret. That's 1.5% of the population.
Wow.
What?
Okay.
Only 1.5%.
Speak it regularly is what I'm getting at. Like, I think more people actually know it at least somewhat.
Right, but maybe not fluent.
Maybe those are the people that are very fluent in it and use it on a daily basis or whatnot. Wow, I thought it was higher than that.
That's sad to me.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe he's right. I don't know. Let us know in the comments, guys. Do you feel like, because I know it is taught in schools, I've learned that, but is it taught in a way that's not fun? So the kids just like don't pick it up because it's like boring to them when they're learning it, instead of having some fun teachers in there actually engaging the students.
Like putting a spin on it, like a national pride thing.
Right.
Like, yeah.
Irish is supposed to be a fun language that we appreciate as a vital part of our culture, but it's almost impossible to enjoy the language when we're using shit like this to learn it. The general theme of study text on the Leaving Cert Irish course is misery. If you ever want to feel depressed from reading a work of fiction, then look no further. Let's summarise the stories that you have to study in Leaving Cert Irish. Cockmillet, a blind man gets on a train to go on holiday. He dies. Ongan Norwood, a lovable family man, doesn't like going to the pub, so he goes home to see his family. He dies. He also got blood all over his chop suey.
What?
That's pretty cringe if you ask me. Deesh, a married couple talk about a survey, but the husband ignores his wife. That's it. That's everything that happens. We had to write about why that story is funny. When the Department of Education
Oh my goodness. Why this story is funny.
Okay.
For real.
I can look at those few examples. I can see why.
I'm sure there's more than that. Like, I'm sure
Right.
it's not all that, but
That
yeah, you're painting it in such a negative light.
not just painting a negative light. That just isn't really. That really isn't making it fun for
It's not
students
inspiring.
that have a rather short attention span.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like at that point in life. I mean, even now, like, I mean, to sit down and learn a language, I would want it to be fun and not so just like, you know, so I get that.
figuring out how Irish should be taught in schools, I imagine the thought process was something like this. Should students learn how to speak Irish in everyday conversation? And should we encourage them to appreciate the language and have fun speaking it? Or should we force them to rote learn multiple essays and vocabulary describing 5 poems, 5 stories, and 20 picture stories, thereby killing their interest in the language?
Yeah.
The Irish syllabus has received a lot of criticism for basically failing to teach our national language in an engaging way and completely sucking the fun out of learning it. The Leaving Cert in general is heavily criticised around this time of year, to the point where it becomes an annual media circus and a huge topic of national conversation. But everybody stops caring about it until August when it becomes topical again. When you're preparing for the Leaving Cert, you are certainly going to hear some variation of these exact words at least 100 times. The Leaving Cert is not a test of intelligence. It is just a memory test that rewards mindless rote learning, and it does not encourage critical thinking. The point system is outdated and isn't fit for purpose in the modern world. I failed my Leaving Cert and I am now an entrepreneur. Exam results do not define you, and no matter what you get, there will always be a back door into anything you'd like to do.
So what's the point?
Of course I agree with this argument, but it's getting incredibly boring now, and it doesn't highlight the real problem with the Leaving Cert. The Leaving Cert is the climax of second level education, but I wouldn't consider this education at all. It's basically a national contest between 55,000 students to obtain the most points and progress to the third level. The Leaving Cert becomes less about educating students for life, and it turns into this game of analysing past exam papers, predicting the topics that will come up, and selecting the right chapters to study in order to achieve the highest number of points possible.
So basically memorization.
Yeah.
Which I feel like is what the American school system is based on.
Yes.
Just cramming in stuff to get a good grade and not actually retaining it.
And I this is a pet peeve of mine because I understand something that I think a lot of people don't. I know a lot of people do understand what I'm about to say, but a lot of people still don't understand this. That the world is so different now that the cramming of information into kids' heads
It's so pointless.
is so pointless because it's like you should be teaching them critical thinking skills and the love of learning and the best ways to self-teach and so forth and so on, because it's a completely different world they're entering than it was when this model was created. It's just so different. This is still, I mean, it's a little bit different now. It's gotten a little bit better, at least here in the US, but it's still this model that is specifically about, that was created kind of in the industrial age. The Industrial Revolution brought about this model, right? And it was there to create workers, factory workers, industrial workers, and
following orders. Basically.
Right. And today's world, it requires so much more independent thinking. It requires there's going to be so many less jobs for the kids that are in school today, like your traditional jobs.
Advancement.
it's going to be more. There's going to be more entrepreneurs. There's going to be more just
alternative ways of like earning income.
Right.
Yeah.
It's going to be so different. In a lot of ways, there's going to be so much more creativity needed, going into the future compared to what it has been in the past. Obviously, depending on your profession, obviously your profession might require a lot of creativity.
Right.
But overall, up until recent years, most professions really didn't. Most people got out of school, primary school, secondary school, went to college, university, and then graduated and went to work for some sort of company. Mm-hmm. And that's really not happening quite as often as it used to. That type of model, that type of, that system just doesn't work for that as well.
Right.
There's no long-term objective beyond attaining points to get into college. We all lose sight of what education actually is, and we simply don't care about learning anything that will benefit us once the Leaving Cert is over. With the structure of the education system heavily revolving around exams and academic achievement, we all perceive the Leaving Cert as nothing more than a pathway to third-level education. We spend 2 years memorizing information temporarily, which will be completely forgotten on results day when the objective of receiving points has been achieved. Because of this attitude, everything we learn in the senior cycle becomes redundant. Even the SEC knows this, because your exam papers which epitomise your 2 years of Leaving Cert study aren't even sent back to you.
SEC.
The SEC destroys them. Our education has no positive consequence for us in the real world, and we hit the reset button when we move on to college or work. But why is the Leaving Cert so backwards and unfit for purpose in the 21st century? Why is so little effort being made to modernise the entire system? And why has it remained almost the exact same for so many decades? Well, the Leaving Cert exams are designed and distributed by an organisation known as the State Examination Commission. And they are really good at their job.
Oh, that's the SEC.
That was a joke. The SEC is in charge of an entire exam system that determines if a student can advance to third-level education, which is obviously a huge responsibility that should be taken incredibly seriously. But they manage to f*** something up every single year, and I am getting sick of this drinking game. A recent epidemic is the shortage of Leaving Cert examiners. They have to take on an overwhelming workload throughout the entire month of July for an unattractive wage, 58% of which is taxed. So less teachers are willing to sign up for this role. This could have been addressed in
Okay, 58% of it, their income's taxed.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know. I have never looked into the taxation system. That's a good idea. We should check that out. But is that unique to them, or is that the taxation system in general? Wow.
rectified back in 2017, but if there's one thing the SEC is good at, it's refusing to acknowledge their own mistakes and not making any changes to how they operate. So due to the SEC's complete lack of self-awareness, the trend of urgently appealing for more examiners continued in 2018 and 2019. Remember, you should never start studying for the Leaving Cert at the last minute. But the SEC can start searching for examiners at the last minute. Remember, you can't do your essay the night before it's due. But you are expected to write multiple essays for English, Irish, art, history and geography in 3-hour exams. The biggest problem that prevents any meaningful change is entirely our own fault. Whenever we are presented with an opportunity to learn anything useful, everybody treats it like it's some kind of joke. The Leaving Cert is such a familiar rite of passage, it has been so engraved in our culture for as long as we can remember, that the idea of education revolving around terminal exams is completely standard. Everybody cries out for mental health classes, which is actually part of the SPHE syllabus. But of course, SPHE is treated like a throwaway subject, and is typically used as extra study time for the exam subjects. CSPE, Civic, Social and Political Education, one of the most fundamentally useful subjects you can possibly learn, is treated like a joke. We have this inherent obsession with exams and rote learning information, so we can't comprehend the idea of education revolving around anything else. In my now deleted SEC video essay, I detailed my idea of an improved education system. My suggested curriculum was divided into 3 sectors: personal development.
That's great. That's a great idea.
Yeah, I agree with him. I mean, we should be
teaching real life skills.
Yes.
Things you're actually going to use on a daily basis.
And education, obviously in the school system, I think in any public school system, any school system where you have a lot of kids that they may be very different. You have to have some sort of uniform teaching, right? Or uniform education.
Right.
But we should try our best to make education not only fun, we should try to individualize education to each student as much as possible to get them prepared for whatever it is that they want to go into specifically. Instead of, for example, I learned a ton I mean, most of the stuff I learned in school, I never have used in my entire life.
Yeah.
And it's like, I wish they had done a better job of actually asking me what my interests were and kind of guiding me with those interests.
However, a hypothetical system like this would never work in this country. As a nation, we just do not have the mindset necessary for a system like this to succeed, because non-exam subjects would be shoved to the side. Nobody would take it seriously.
All right, guys.
He feels very passionate about this subject.
Definitely feels very passionate about it, and I can understand that. He obviously, at the making of this video, I think he was 19.
I was going to say, he's fresh out of that stage of life where you're most affected by these things.
Right, and so he's probably feeling and thinking about what he just experienced all those years and going into this next stage. So I can understand that. I'm many years outside of this system now, but we have a 6-year-old that has recently experienced going into the system, and it's definitely an eye-opener in a way of how things have changed and are unfortunately still the same. And some of the changes may be good, but some of the changes are definitely not where I want them to be.
Yeah.
What are perceived as problems in the Irish education system, from what he has to say, are also some of the same problems we have here in America.
I was going to say, it sounds pretty similar. I mean, we don't have a 2-week testing thing at the end, but we do have to do, like, throughout grade levels, have to do, like, different state exam testing and all that. And then at the end, you have to do, like, SAT or ACT to get into college. But yeah, I think there are many similarities between American education system and the Irish education system.
Seems to be. And I think that most of us can probably agree that because the world has advanced, especially with technology, so much over the last, say, couple of decades, that, you know, it's time that the education system gets a complete and utter overhaul.
Yeah.
Because the old system of having kids sit in a desk staring at a teacher all day, and then just the goal is to memorize and then regurgitate random information that the kids aren't interested in, that they're not going to retain half of that after they get out of school, that they won't ever use. Instead, it should be more focused on the individual student and what serves them best. That way, kids come out of school more prepared to go into whatever it is they want to go into. And I also like the idea of, you know, teaching real world stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Most kids get out of school and they don't even know here in America, they don't even know anything about how to do their taxes.
Right.
And I mean, that's a fundamental skill. They don't, you know, at least back in the old days, they actually did a better job of this. Everybody took their home ec, they took shop class. They learned basics of like woodworking or working on a car or cooking, like baking and stuff, you know, and sewing clothes, like all these little skills that they would use and retain in most cases for the rest of their life. But those, for some reason, have been left aside for just the straight academics. And don't get me wrong, there's definitely an importance to academics in school. It's obviously very important to learn your basic mathematics and reading and writing and some history and some science and so forth and so on. But there's too much emphasis on memorization and regurgitating of things that a lot of kids aren't going to be that interested in, instead of letting them have a little more time with the stuff that they would actually find fascinating. And also, like he said, let us know in the comments if you think this is correct in your experience as well, that they don't make learning the Irish language very fun.
Yeah, that's sad to hear. I would have assumed the percentage that spoke Irish in Ireland was much higher.
Yeah.
But yeah, if they're in the education system, if they're framing it in a way that makes it negative or boring, why would you have any interest?
Right. But anyways, guys, let us know in the comments.
Do you agree with the things he said? Is it true still, or how are things changing? Hopefully.
Did you have a different experience in school, or is this what he's described your experience as well? But anyways, guys, enough rambling from us. Thank you so much for stopping by. Please click that like button. Feel free to drop your comments or suggestions about this video or others. And don't forget to subscribe to continue to follow us on our journey to discover anything and everything about the UK and Ireland. Until next time, guys. Peace.
Bye.